Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on where you are in the world. This is Gloria White, and I'm coming to you from Utah, USA. I'm just adjusting that because the light was in the picture. Now, this is part 2 in this Russia and China in Prophecy pamphlet, booklet. And Germany plays a role in the events in the world, on the world stage, that well, let's just look at her history. Germany in World War I started World War I by crossing through neutral Belgium to the east and attacking France. And then that was to the west, and to the east, it attacked Russia. So it started World War I. We know what happened in World War II. Now, there was also the Kosovo War, in which Germany played a major role, causing, well, they didn't cause the U.S. to choose to go with their plan, but the U.S. chose to go with the Germany plan in Kosovo, and going against our allies, France, Britain, and the Netherlands. So, not a good move. And that was in, I think, 1999, and George Papa Bush was president at that time. Anyway, we're going to talk about Putin's rise to power and how he is moving Russia into a geopolitical position with the control of the oil in his country, and how he's grabbed that and pulled it all in under his reins so he can drive Russia where he wants to drive Russia. And Germany is currently getting oil from Russia. President Trump made the United States oil independent of other countries. And also, we had enough oil that we were actually exporting. And there was this little thing between Germany and the U.S. where the U.S. was trying to get Germany to not get oil from Russia because it's only increasing their wealth. But anyway, I'm not going to go any further into history. If you guys want to know more, there's Mr. Google. But just to kind of give you an idea. So now, this part 2 starts, Russia frightens Europe and fulfills Bible prophecy. For over a decade after the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, Russia was outside the mainstream of world affairs, but under the leadership of Vladimir Putin, who was elected president in 2000 and became prime minister in 2008, things have changed radically. Putin has called the Soviet Union's collapse the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. He has dedicated himself to reversing that catastrophe and restoring Russia to what he sees as its rightful position as a formidable world power. He's already been very successful, and he isn't finished. Russia's return to great power status has tremendous prophetic importance, not only because of the role Russia is prophesied to fulfill in world affairs, but also because its aggressive actions are provoking alarm and urgency within Europe. And that is the power that we really must watch. The Europeans still remember how violent Russia was in World War II, and Russia is a close neighbor with massive piles of nuclear weapons. Russia's bold moves are triggering a fear that will hasten the uniting of the European Union. This fear will cause Germany and other European nations to want stronger leadership. Throughout history, Germany has often sought a strong leader. Bible prophecy says it will do it again for the last time. These events are about a rapidly approaching World War III. You can prove this for yourself by writing for our free booklet, Germany and the Holy Roman Empire. Political earthquake. In parliamentary elections in 2003, President Putin cemented control over Russia in a way that recalled that nation's authoritarian history. We should remember that Mr. Putin was shaped and molded by the infamous KGB, the ruthless, murderous secret arm of the Russian government made famous by Joseph Stalin. Clearly, Putin had used his presidential powers to manipulate the process to ensure a victory for his United Russia party. His strong arm moves struck intense fear in Europe. And I could comment here on what's going on in America, but I digress. The Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the OSCE, complained that the elections did not meet international standards and represented a regression in the democratization of this country. Stratford wrote, "What bothers the OSCE is less the hardball campaign tactics than the size of Putin's win. Putin has nearly a two-thirds majority in both chambers of parliament. The liberal parties have been devastated. The shape of Russian politics is shifting as anti-authoritarian parties disappear. Increasingly, the choice is between mild or hard authoritarianism." The Wall Street Journal reported how the election expanded Putin's power. What the elections foretold is a compliant Duma, the lower house of the parliament in Russia, implementing the agenda of an essentially liberal government, albeit one that wants more control of its single most strategic asset, oil. This means that if Mr. Putin wants to take Russia in the direction of dictatorship, or as a fashionable jargon has it, toward managed democracy, the Duma could speed him on his way. Russia's single most strategic asset is oil. From the beginning, Mr. Putin has sought to control that asset, no matter how much Western powers thundered in protest. The soaring price of oil from 2003 through 2008 thrust Russia back on the world stage as a dominant power. Just before the 2003 election, the Russian government arrested the country's richest man, Mikhail Khodorkovsky, CEO of the country's largest oil company, Yukos. That move eventually led to Yukos declaring bankruptcy and the government purchasing the private company at a fire sale price. Experts called it scandalous daylight robbery. These events dramatically increased the Putin government's control over Russia's oil. By taking such control over Russia's vast oil and gas resources, Putin gained considerable global influence. Russia is the second largest oil supplier in the world And with global demand for oil increasing as oil supplies are dwindling, Putin has a lot of leverage over other nations. Jane's intelligence firm wrote shortly after the Khodorkovsky arrest, "It is becoming clear that Russia is undergoing a profound political convulsion. This amounts to nothing less than the birth of the Second Russian Republic. The new republic will continue to be a mixture of market and state-controlled economic forces. But it will be a country in which that President Vladimir Putin controls both the political and economic levers of power. The Russian president has staged his own coup." Those were very accurate statements. This article called Putins Moves, the birth of the Second Russian Republic. A new Russia has been born. Mr. Putin staged his own coup. He took over this new Russia. Now the world has another major reason to tremble. Russia is indeed undergoing a profound political convulsion, one that will convulse Europe and many other nations. Notice more of what Staffer wrote after the 2003 election. "That is why OSCE is getting nervous. Putin is, first and last, a Russian nationalist, utterly pragmatic or ruthless, and the tools he will use to strengthen the Russian state. He has greater power now than anyone in Russia since the collapse of communism. He can reshape the regime. Consequently, the OSCE and Europe are nervous about where Putin is taking Russia. They have every reason to be. Putin is slowly and systematically changing Russia's direction. When Russia changes direction, the rest of Europe should indeed be nervous." Staffer used the word nervous 3 times for special emphasis. Europe has not forgotten Russia's recent dictatorial history. It is nervous for good reason, and it is going to get a lot more nervous in a few short years. Europeans are not the only people who should be nervous. Whole world should be alarmed. The whole world should be alarmed. Mr. Putin is changing the course of world history, and Bible prophecy reveals exactly where it is leading. Okay, we'll call that part 2A. And as always, I love you.